The foundation of any legend is not a victory, but a narrow, blood-slicked evasion of total annihilation. And in Escape, the blistering, atmospheric, and lethally paced inaugural movement of Jada Fisher's Rise of the Black Dragon saga, the concept of survival is stripped to its rawest, most terrifying components. Fisher, the iron-willed architect of this draconic, cataclysmic odyssey, delivers a visceral, deeply intense, and soul-searing masterpiece that treats the dragon's shadow not as a mere creature, but as an existential weather pattern that dictates the rise and fall of civilizations. This isn't a story of casual fantasy progression or convenient heroic ascent. It is a rapid-fire, deeply intense plunge into the logistical nightmare of surviving in a realm where the laws of nature are being systematically overwritten by the primal, obsidian fury of an awakening apex predator. The perilous collision between a protagonist's mortal fragility and the cold, terrifying majesty of a reality that demands a total, uncompromising flight, and the terrifying truth that when you escape from the shadow of a black dragon, you aren't just fleeing a predator. You are outrunning your own inevitable consumption. Fisher hooks the audience instantly by constructing a high-stakes, hyper-focused trap. A survivor, hardened by the systematic collapse of their world, finds themselves thrust into a crucible where memory, loyalty, and their own humanity are being systematically incinerated by the proximity of a god-tier draconic catalyst. The narrative center zeroes in on the protagonist's methodical, high-pressure descent into the flight, a state of heightened, soul-splitting integration with their own instinctual survival mechanisms that act as both a death sentence for their past self and the only viable conduit for escaping the encroaching, divine-level annihilation. As they traverse the shattered, obsidian-scarred ruins of the Old Kingdoms and the dangerously unpredictable, flame-drenched wastes of the frontier, they realize that their departure is not merely a biological necessity. It is a systemic catalyst that is drawing out the dragonkin, entities that hunt those who refuse to conform to the world's optimized, fire-cleansed reality. The investigation into the sudden, artificial intensity of the dragon's awakening quickly escalates into a dangerous, high-stakes tactical chess match, as they discover that the forces behind the world's collapse are already embedding themselves within their own fragile and rapidly fleeing ranks. Forced to juggle the logistical nightmare of maintaining a coherent, trusting bond, the constant suffocating threat of temporal erasure, and the mounting, undeniable tension between their own emerging survivalist nature and their dwindling human impulses, they must synthesize a new way of existing, one built on profound, elemental vulnerability, radical, improvised devotion to the path, and an unyielding, purely human refusal to be overwritten by the crystalline, infinite void. Fisher's writing style is unapologetically atmospheric, exceptionally fast-paced, and saturated with an intense, authentic blend of draconic lore technicality, cinematic dread, and high-stakes elemental fantasy. She builds exceptional structural tension by pairing the mundane, aching routines of survival, tending to the fading, immortal spark, navigating the shifting, glass-like maze of the dragon's domain, and enduring the quiet, crushing weight of constant, vigilant isolation, with the chaotic, nightmare-filled assaults of the world-altering, draconic, reality-warping vistas. The story moves forward with a relentless, momentum-driven energy, turning routine analytical probes, calculated maneuvers through the frozen, heavenly landscape, and tense, high-stakes standoffs with reality-warping entities into pulse-pounding steps closer to an inevitable, reality-defining confrontation. The presentation thrives on this sharp emotional focus, making every discovered clue, every executed maneuver, and every deep-seated fear confronted feel like a high-stakes victory for the human spirit. What makes Escape an exceptional entry in the modern dragon fantasy canon is Fisher's unparalleled ability to develop a highly compelling, logic-driven heroine whose emotional resilience becomes a supreme navigational asset rather than a tragic, fading memory. Watch as she transforms her experience with the unnatural into a compass, learning to navigate the chaotic field to outmaneuver an entity that operates with absolute, terrifying precision. As the structural walls of their reality begin to collapse and the true scope of the rise threat is exposed, the pacing transforms into a breathless, heart-pounding race to maintain the shred of truth they carry before their consciousness is permanently unstitched by the cold, draconic machinery. The final act is an absolute masterclass in suspense, delivering a barrage of explosive emotional realizations, shattered paradigms, and a spectacular, jaw-dropping climax that completely leaves the reader thoroughly stunned. For fans of thrillers demanding a brilliant, character-driven, and masterfully paced exploration of love, myth, and divine power, this book delivers an unforgettable shockwave.